Hold up. Wait a minute. I wish you love, peace, and hair grease.
Love, peace, and hair grease, y'all.
Yeah, you know we shoot straight from the hip.
This is Carla Renata, a.k.a. the Curvy Critic, and I shoot straight from the hip.
Yeah, you know we shoot straight from the hip.
Hi, everybody. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. There's so much going on in the world. But if this is your first time joining me, and sorry I'm a few minutes late. As usual, I had a lot going on around here on a Sunday. But thank you so much for joining me. If this is your first time joining me, give me a thumbs up, big thumbs up to let me know that you were here. If you were on YouTube, click that bell for notifications and subscribe to the channel because you never know what you might see or what you might hear here. So having said that, I got a lot of stuff to get into, so I'm going to get right into it. We'll do Around the Curve toward the end of the show and not at the beginning of the show like I usually do. I usually get into what I did during the week, but it was so much that I don't even want to go into it. There was a lot of stuff going on, but mostly what I did was I am the co-president for the documentary branch at Critics' Choice. So we were getting our nominees and tallying up the votes for that, which is happening on November 12th in New York City at the Edison Hotel. So we were trying to get that together so that the press release can go out and all of that. So I've had little to no sleep and 5,000 things to do. But having said that, let's get right on into it. I told y'all at the beginning of the show, baby, we're going to talk about my girl. We're going to talk about some Taylor Swift. Yes, we are. We are going to go there. But before we get into the Swifties, honey, let me check the chat room to see if my boy Brandon has been through, because I know he always rolls through ahead of time. And he tells me that his birthday is coming up on October 30th. He's going to be how old? He's going to be 29. Thank you so much, Brandon, and happy early birthday. We appreciate you here at the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. So having said that, let's get back to the show. I want to talk about this film called The Persian Version. I saw this at Sundance and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. It is written and directed by an Iranian woman and is loosely based on her life. It's only going to be in theaters in New York and LA beginning October 20th, which is this week. And the young lady that directed it and wrote it is Mariam Kashavarz. Okay, so that's that. So I'm going to come back on camera and I'm going to talk to y'all about this movie because it gave me life. It gave me life. And I was really excited to talk about it because it was fucking hilarious. Oops, sorry, I cussed. Anywho, I'm going to come back and talk about this. So coming from two countries, and are at odds with each other. This mother and daughter are having some issues. And anybody who is a daughter that has a mother, y'all know what I'm talking about. Your mama wants you to do one thing and be one thing, and you got your own thing going on. And what ends up happening is Her mother is hardcore. The film is hilarious, first and foremost. The mother is hardcore. She's very strong-willed. She's very determined. The father is in the hospital. He needs a heart operation. So the mother's kind of left out there to take care of the family. And what happens is this film won this year's Sundance. It won the screenwriting award at Sundance this year, 2023. But basically, what it's about is when the family comes into New York City to reunite for Layla's father's not Layla, um, yeah, Layla's father's heart transplant. She navigates her relationships at arm's length distance. She's a lesbian. Her mother is not down with that. It's like a whole thing. And then what ends up happening is Layla ends up having this one night stand and gets pregnant by this guy who is fabulously played by let me get his name up, by Tom Byrne. He is he's an actor who's playing the lead in Hedwig and the Angry Inch. The funniest scene in that movie is the hospital scene where she's about to have this baby. It is so funny. There's a lot of flashbacks introduced within this film showing how the mother was forced to marry a certain way and be a certain way and have children a certain way, and how tradition oftentimes dictates need. And so that is a big part of the film and a big part of what drives the story of the film. But baby, it is comedy at its best. And Tom Byrne and Nusha Noor, who plays Shireen, Layla's mother, and let me find Layla's name, and Layla Muhammad, who plays Layla Child, they're hilarious. It is so funny. The film is called The Persian Version, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. This dance alone of them dancing, look at the mama. She looks all elegant, and this is Layla in the green. It is everything. Bubba Wine, the people's president. I believe I talked about this before, but I want to talk about it a little more in depth because there was some more news that came up about Bubba Wine this past week. So it's streaming right now on Hulu and Disney Plus. And Boba Wine was born in Kampala, which is in Uganda. And he decided that he was going to go up against the parliament and the person who is currently in the regime, Yoweri Museveni. And Museveni has been in power since 1986, and he changed the Uganda's constitution to enable him to run for another 5-year term. I want to say this about that. It seems unconstitutional that once certain politicians get in office, they decide to just make up rules that benefit themselves. We saw that happen here in the United States. I won't say who it benefited, but we all know who I'm talking about. But to see it happen in another country that's already fraught with their own challenges, and Boba Wine used his music to denounce the dictatorial regime and support his life mission to defend the oppressed and voiceless people of Uganda. Now, when this film was released last week, first of all, when he ran for office before, the president in the regime now had him put in jail, had him beaten. They surrounded his compound so that he couldn't leave. His wife couldn't leave. They had to send the children away somewhere so that the children wouldn't get hurt. And when the film was released, and then they shut down the internet for like 3 weeks so that nobody could talk about the elections. This time around, they shut down the internet again. They put Bubba Wine in jail again. Like, that's going to stop somebody from going on Nat Geo or Disney Plus from watching it. I was like, really? Is that's what we're going to do right now? Okay. So that happened. But I highly suggest you guys watch this. It's a very educational documentary. I'm going to talk about a lot of documentaries right now because that's where my head has been. And there's some really good ones that I think need to be on your radar. So that one is called Boba Wine, the People's President. And we just finished talking about the Persian version. Anatomy of a Fall. I believe I talked about this before, but we're going to get into that one. We're going to get into a film called The Mission. We're going to get into Savior Complex. We're going to get into Silver Dollar Road. We're going to get into The Burial. And we're going to get into, like I said, Swifties. Hang on to your hats. We're going to talk about your girl. We're going to talk about your girl. All right. So having said all of that, let's go back up here and talk about a little Anatomy of a Fall. So Anatomy of a Fall is a really interesting film. It's only playing in New York and LA right now. It is directed by Justine Triet, and it stars Sandra Hüller and a young man named Milo Machado Granner. Let me come on camera and talk about this, because this is the craziest film I've ever seen. It's like a thriller. It's like a suspenseful drama thriller, and it centers around this woman who's suspected of killing her husband, and her blind son is forced with the moral dilemma as the sole witness. And so there's a moment where the son doesn't know if the mom did it. He vanishes from the house. It's a whole situation. But basically, what happens is bananas, and it's very unpredictable. You're going to be riveted the entire time. It won the Palme d'Or film at the Cannes Film Festival earlier this year. And so what happens is the mom is having this interview. She's a writer of some sorts. And so this reporter comes to interview her, and they can't get through the interview because this song is playing overtly loud in spurts and on a repeat. It's a loud instrumental version of 50 Cent's PIMP. Is on repeat, which the sound choice or the music choice for that is just hilarious, on a whole different dark level. It's possibly the best performance of the year by Sandra Hüller as this woman who finds herself in the middle of a nightmare when a French court indicts her of murdering her husband. The way that the court treats her is ridiculous. They try to ban the child from the courtroom, but at the end of it, you end up going, I'm not so. For a minute, you think she kind of did it, but then you're kind of like, I don't know. You're like, when the young, so this is how they find out about the dad. So the little boy. So after this whole thing goes down with the music, the little boy takes the dog for a walk. And when he comes, I don't know why this keeps flipping back up. And when he comes back, he discovers his father on the ground in the snow, blood everywhere. Now he's blind. All he knows is that his father can't move. He calls for his mother. So we're trying to figure out, did he fall from the attic where he was working? Did he jump? Was he pushed by the mom? Do we think that she was resentment because maybe he was having an affair? It makes you think, should we trust or not trust our partners? Or worse, do we not just care what happens to them? And as deep as these questions are, the characters are even deeper. And it gains the most power in the film by not recognizing that the film doesn't have all the answers by the time it's over. Again, it's called Anatomy of a Fall, and it is not streaming. It is in theaters only in LA and New York right now. When it moves to streaming, possibly, I will let you know what's going on with that. This is a little boy. His name is Milo Machado Granner. And when I tell you this little boy, he steals the film from everybody. And this is the chick that plays his mother. Just her performance is just amazing. Her name is Sandra Hüller. So check that out. The Mission is streaming on Netflix. I'm sorry, Nat Geo. I saw it in. It's Nat Geo. I told y'all it's a lot going on over here. This film is directed by Amanda McBain and Jesse Moss. It's dealing with an American missionary, John Chow, who's killed as he attempts to make contact with an indigenous group off the coast of India, one of the last communities on earth still living in isolation. Now, I'm going to come back on camera for this one too, because this one is bananas, y'all. It really is. It's like, what is happening right now? So there's this group of people. They live on an island that is a community it's believed to be about 200 people that live there. And it's the last of the pre-Neolithic tribe on earth is what it is. And this young man, John Chow, is a missionary. He took missionary trips to Mexico, South Africa, Iraq, Kurdistan, and he spent a lot of time posting about his missionary work and history. And people shared his posts avidly. They saw him as an aspirational figure. He was so popular at one point that he became an influencer, posting about certain gear and rations for paychecks. Unfortunately, Chow was killed in 2018 during an illegal missionary trip to the Sentinel Islands off the coast of India. Now, this is the thing about this. This young man believed that he was called by God to go to these people and teach them the word of Jesus Christ. He felt like teaching them the word of Jesus Christ would help get them off this island. He paid no attention to what his friends said, no attention to what people that were familiar with that island and what had happened to previous people. Everybody that's gone there and tried to do that has been killed with a bow and arrow by these people. They feel like, we do not want another white man coming up in here trying to take our stuff. And so if you try that, we are going to kill you. There's no, like, they don't speak English. They only speak in their native tongue. And my man literally was waving the Bible, and they literally shot a bow and arrow through his Bible. Honey, if somebody had shot a bow and arrow through my Bible, I would have been on the first thing smoking up out of there. Not John Chow, because John Chow thought that he could help them. He thought that he had a savior complex, so to speak, in a small way. That's what he did. So that's what happened with him. He was 19. So let me just give you a little background on John Chow. He was 19. Oh no, I'm sorry. Scratch that. That was John Chow. All right. So I say all of that to say that this story, The Mission, which is also a documentary streaming on Nat Geo, is very similar to another documentary that is streaming on HBO, and it's called Savior Complex. And Savior Complex is really deep, because in Savior Complex, the young lady that they are speaking about in this film, craziness. So this young woman, this is directed by Jackie Jesko. It's a series that's in 3 episodes, not 6. I meant to say series. It's a series that's in 3 episodes. And it centers around this another missionary, a young American missionary named Renee Bach, who set up a charity for malnourished children in Jinja, Uganda. Uganda is a theme, and white people doing things is a theme today, so y'all gonna have to bear with me. But the shocking allegations that arose when Renee was treating the sick children herself without any medical qualifications. She was doing these things to these children, saying that God spoke to her. She had no medical training and ignored the signs from others. So let me give you a little background on Miss Renee, and I'll come back on camera to talk about her. She was 19 and from Virginia, and she was homeschooled and graduated from an evangelical missionary founded by Save His Children, SHC, an organization that helps and feeds and cares for malnourished children in Uganda. There were whistleblower accusations that Renee was treating these children herself with no medical qualifications. A social media activist group called No White Saviors starts to draw public attention to the situation, calling Renee the angel of death and a poster child for neocolonialism. When Renee denies the accusations, claiming that her work was guided by God and helped save hundreds of lives, this takes a really close look at how she took babies' lives into her hands with no authority. She didn't have medical training, and she told me God told her to do that. It always concerns me when I hear somebody say, well, God told me to do. In some instances, I believe people when they say that, because it depends on the story and the context in which they say it. But when somebody like this one and John Chow talk about God spoke to them and what God told, God ain't told you to kill no malnourished children. God ain't told you to go try to convert a whole island full of people who don't want to be bothered. God has not told you to do that. So I don't know where they got that from, but these 2 documentaries will have you feel in some kind of way. And the other one that's going to have you feel in some kind of way is this one. So there is, let me just show you. So this is The Mission. It is on Nat Geo. This is John Chow. And this is Savior Complex. It's been streaming on HBO Max since September 26th. So there's a beach here in Southern California called Bruce's Beach. And it was in the news in Southern California, here where I live, for a really long time, because what happened was LA County, this beach was, let me find it. Okay. So This beach was owned by Willa and Charles Bruce. They bought it in 1924. It was beachfront property that they bought in 1924. LA County paid them $20 million to the land that they seized from the family. Are you with me? So this black family owned this land. LA County seized and took the land back, and then the family sued them, and then they got paid $20 million for land that's literally worth $75 million. Manhattan Beach officials condemned the property in 1924, and back then paid the Bruces $14,000 and $500, saying that they needed it for a public park. They didn't need it for a public park. They ultimately left it underdeveloped for more than 3 decades, and the couple lost a legal battle to reclaim it. The land was later transferred to Los Angeles County because nobody claimed it, right? And now hosts a training center for lifeguards. It's now worth $75 million. Meanwhile, over in North Carolina, there is a beach in a public park called Elijah Reels. Elijah Reels bought some beachfront property in North Carolina in 1866, right after slavery ended and right at the crutch of the Reconstruction era. He bought this park. And now what's happening with his family, let me come back on camera and let me talk to y'all about that, because this one is even crazier than the savory, savior complex ones I was talking about, because you're not going to believe this one. Okay. So what had happened was, so the Rios family, minding their own business, find out inadvertently that so the patriarch, Elijah Rios, he passes away. And so the family has the deeds to the property. They're like, okay, let's make sure that this paperwork is in order. When they go to make sure that the paperwork is in order, they found out that another relative, Uncle Sherrick, declared through an adverse possession showing ownership by demonstrating a prolonged occupation of the land, his legal right to the prime seashore. Basically, what that means is that he created a fake deed and took control of the land, and nobody in the court there contested it. Uncle Sherrick then sold the land to Adam Creek's associates, and ever since, the Rios family has been locked in a multi-decade battle to reclaim what is rightfully theirs from these shady real estate developers. The reason why this is important is because it's very similar to what happens to another story that I'm going to talk about, The Burial, which is also streaming on Prime Video. But this documentary that this story is based on is called Silver Dollar Road. And Silver Dollar Road is the road in Merrimon that leads right down to the beachfront property that Elijah Reels owned. So what happens is, while the family is fighting to keep this property, they end up getting eviction notices. And so they go to court to fight the eviction notice, knowing that they're probably not going to be coming back home right away. Not only do they not come back home right away, Melvin Reels and Curtis Reels end up imprisoned for 8 years, being charged with trespassing on their own property. Let me say that again. Melvin and Curtis Reels were arrested and placed in jail for 8 years for trespassing on their own property. Who gets arrested for trespassing and spends 8 years in jail? Black men do. Black people do. Anybody that's not white does. In 2023, that is unconscionable. That is ridiculous. That makes no sense. No sense. How does that even happen? This family has spent thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to fight this fraudulent claim on legal fees and lawyer fees, lawyers that tell them they're going to help them. And then once they do some research and find out how famous the case is and how much work it's going to take, they won't even help them. There's one instance in which one lawyer told them that they needed a $4,500 retainer, and they would look at it over the weekend and returned $150, and said that they would return whatever they didn't need back. They returned $150 along with a note saying, I can't take your case. This is the kind of social injustice and the type of injustice in the legal system that Black people deal with all the time. It's ridiculous, it's unwarranted, and I don't even have enough adjectives to describe what it is. But that brings me to the next film, because this next film is right along those same lines. It's called The Burial, and it's also streaming on Prime Video. So The Burial is inspired by true events. Let me just show you who these people are. So this, when I'm talking about Silver Dollar Road, on your left is like Curtis Reels, and on your right is Melvin Reels. That they are the two that were incarcerated for 8 years. 8 years of their life were taken away for trespassing on their own property. Makes no sense. And here is the rest of the Reels family, the core family that is still living. In the middle is the matriarch, the grandmother, who is 95 years old. I want to show you Bruce's Beach too. This is the Bruce's Beach property in Southern California that the Los Angeles County took and is worth $75 million, but they took it away from the family. They have since, I believe, given it back to the family, but that's a whole nother thing. On a whole nother tip, we've got this other film called The Burial that stars Tommy Lee Jones, and Jamie Foxx, and Mamadou Athie, and Journey Smollett. So in this film, generally what happens is it's based on a true story that was adapted from a book by Jonathan Harris. The film is set in 1995, and it deals with this undefeated personal injury lawyer, Willie Gary, who's played by Jamie Foxx, who helps the funeral home owner Jeremiah Joseph O'Keefe, played by Tommy Lee Jones, sue a large burial company, the Lowen Group, over a contractual dispute that exposes an even deeper story of race and power. Now, when I say it exposes an even deeper story of race and power, what I mean by that is that it is one of these stories that, like, let me come back on camera. It's one of these stories like what happens with Bruce's Beach, what's happening with the Rios family in North Carolina. Jeremiah O'Keefe is a white man, but he's suing a developer company for a contract breach because he wanted to sell them 3 of his funeral homes, retain his burial insurance so that he could, make sure that people got fair prices in the county where he lives in Mississippi. And the Lowen Group had no interest in doing that. The Lowen Group was grieve gouging. So they were taking advantage of Black people, charging them 3, 4, 5, in some instances, 10 times as much for a grave site, for insurance, for all of that when their loved ones pass. And anyone who knows, when someone passes in your family, you can't think straight. You can't think clearly. All you know is you got to get the money. It's ridiculous. And watching Jamie Foxx and Tommy Lee Jones in this film, it's about as good as it gets. It really, really is. There's a scene with the two of them in a plane where Jamie Foxx has a super, super long monologue that tells you everything you need to know about Willie Gary and his ambition and his drive and how he deals with the bigotry in the South, being denied an apartment and property all only due to his color. You see how there's a theme here? And then Journey Smollett, the thing I love about Journey Smollett playing Mamie Downs, they called her the Python, which I kind of love. And she also was a lawyer that had graduated from Howard University, which I also love, because you know how I feel about my Howard University. And Mamadou Athie plays Hal Dawkins, who is dealing with microaggressions, being a young Black newly minted lawyer right out of college. So all 4 of the main characters are dealing with some type of microaggression or bullying tactic, either racially, monetarily, or personally in some shape, form, or fashion. And that's what makes the film a little deeper than what you would think it is. Because when it first starts, you think it's going to be like some silly little comedy, and that is not what it is. It once again tells another story about how Black people were once again swindled out of money to line their pockets of already rich entrepreneurs preying on death and grief. It's not only a film about race, though. Although race swirls around the film, with pictures on the walls of like the Confederate Way in the Intercontinental Hotel where they're all staying, and footage of the OJ trial while Mamie and Willie Gary are having a conversation in the hotel bar. But it's also a story about Black love, because it shows how Willie Gary calls his wife when he's feeling down and out, and how she comes out to support him, and how she's got his back the whole way. And she also has Jeremiah's back too, because Jeremiah is a man who just wants to have something done right by him. He has 13 kids. He wants to pass down his business to his 13 kids and his 24 grandchildren, the way his father passed the business down to him. And the screenplay even though it has race weaving in and out and about, the screenplay does not, and it was also written by Maggie Betts, who's the director. Her screenplay does not try to solve or absolve the problem with racism, but rather addresses it for what it is and just lets it sit there and lets you lie in it, which I could appreciate. There's also a scene where they talk about this sacred burial ground of slaves, and it's a wasteland of weeds that people are crunching underneath the soles of their feet daily. And that just crushed my soul and reminds me so much of the Tulsa massacres. And it also reminds me about how we're in a place now in America. And I've said this on podcasts before about how we're in an era in America where people in certain southern states are trying to erase American history, and they're trying to erase it because look at how awful and dirty and nasty it is. During Silver Dollar Road, there is a moment where someone is being filmed when some developers come and they in some places they don't need to be, and one of the people filming says Billy Reels gets really upset, and I'm not sure if it's his mother or his grandmother says to him, she says, "Stop it." And he's like, "I just don't understand why they're doing this." And she says to him, "Why are you surprised? That's all they know how to do." They meaning white people. All they know how to do is steal, lie, and cheat, which is exactly what's happening to them, which is exactly what was happening to Jeremiah O'Keefe in The Burial, which is exactly what's happening to the Reels family in North Carolina, which is exactly what's happening to the Bruce family in Southern California. At some point, it's got to stop. And I'm so glad that there are feature films and feature documentaries that are addressing all of this at its core. So now that I done talked about all this deep, intense stuff, let's get into the girl of the hour, honey, Miss Taylor Swift, because I know y'all are waiting for me to talk about her. Miss Taylor, honey, honey, honey. So this is the thing about Taylor Swift. Taylor is, oh my gosh, she is, oops, sorry, I just pressed the wrong button. I understand wholeheartedly how Taylor Swift has become as popular as she has become. I really, really, I get it. I totally, totally get it. She is, back in the day when I was younger, the person that was like the big teen idol that was a girl was like Debbie Gibson and Tiffany. She is like Tiffany and Debbie Gibson and all of those little teen idols. She's all those people rolled into one. She is just, she is an anomaly. The girl can sing, she can dance, she plays the guitar, she plays the piano. She's got this great, great figure. She, I can't say enough about Taylor Swift, honestly. I really can't. Her Eras tour is in theaters right now. It's all over the country. It might be all over the globe, but the one piece of the concert that they showed is, I think it was the last show that she did at the SoFi Stadium here in Los Angeles. The film is 3 hours long, and it's 3 hours long because it literally is engrossed with the majority of her hits and cuts, um, discography of cuts from each one of her albums, from the 1989 album, from the Red album, from every album from the Folklore album. All of these albums that she has different eras of them. But you know, I didn't think I knew that many Taylor Swift songs, and then I saw this. We are never, ever, ever getting back together. Baby, I hollered because I was like, ooh, I am a Swiftie and didn't even know it. I hollered. I was like, well, okay then. Okay, for the Swiftiness of it all. I was very, very excited. I said, okay, I see you, Taylor Swift. Um, I did not realize that she was as prolific as she is. I didn't. What I will say is, I felt like her music kind of all starts to sound the same after a while, but the lyrics are great. And this is what I will say about her: she loves her fans. She does not take for granted that these people have spent hard-earned money to come and see her. She's very grateful, as is Beyonce. Her ticket prices here in LA were $13. I don't know how much they were every place else, but they were $13 in LA. I think Beyonce's tickets are going to be 28. It is a high-tech, top-notch production. She does some 3D stuff here, where it's literally pictures and pictures and pictures of her. She has fire. She has serpent. This thing where she's got the serpent costume on. There was a 3D serpent that looked like it was going to reach out and bite the audience. And then she switches it up and she gives us, soft, ethereal Taylor Swift from like back in her country days. She paid everyone on her tour she paid the truck drivers rather $100,000, and she took $50 million of her own money and paid everybody on her tour, everybody, the background singers, the dancers, everybody. And I got to tell you, anybody that does that is a very generous person and very I ain't got nothing but love for her. She's extremely beautiful. She's totally in command the whole entire time. The staging is great. I even had mad love for the costume changes because she's changing costumes, and doing her thing. And I was like, "Ooh, these her costume changes were like 30." And I don't know if this was an editing thing or if this happened in real time because I didn't see the show in real time. But it looked like her costume changes were ranging like anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute. And I was like, now I'm sure whoever's dressing her is appreciative of that. But what I will tell y'all is that, she seems to be very humble and grateful. The 3D things, she had pianos covered in ivy. I told you about the snakes. She had multi-moving platforms, dancers, and everything was done with some type of story, like music video style staging. It was really quite entertaining, and the 3 hours seemed to fly by. So if you get a chance to check it out, I highly suggest checking it out. So without further ado, before I get up out of here, I'm gonna take you on a little trip around the curve. Here we go. Trip around the curve. Pete Davidson addresses Israel and Gaza conflict in the Saturday Night Live Cold Open. Quote unquote, sometimes comedy is really the only way forward through tragedy. Davidson went on to say, and I know what you're thinking, what better to comment on it than Pete Davidson? Well, in a lot of ways, I am a good person to talk about it because I was 7 years old when my dad was killed in a terrorist attack on 9/11. So I know a little something about what it's like. It was reported by Netflix's Ted Sarandos that the sound editor for Fauda was killed in an Israeli terrorist attack over the weekend. Our prayers and love and light go out to the families. The Academy Museum Gala has been halted over terrorist attacks in Israel and the quote-unquote loss of life. Also in Saturday Night Live, Taylor Swift made a surprise cameo to introduce Ice Spice. The two musicians performed together during Taylor Swift's ERAStour. Taylor Swift's ERAStour concert film is selling out, outpacing Barbie, Spider-Man, and No Way Home. Katy Perry joins Peppa Pig ahead of its 20th anniversary, and the International Cinematographers Guild will host its 61st Publicist Award luncheon on March 8th, 2024 at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. Sunshine Sachs PR firm is continuing to rep the Golden Globes again, cites the organization's ongoing commitment to change. Star Wars movies heads to Disney linear networks and will be shared with Turner Nets under the New Deal. Xu Xiuling, Anga Yunanda are among the cast revealed for the ambitious co-production Malice. Images rolled in this week of Oscar winner Angelina Jolie as she takes on the role of opera singer Maria Callas. Nancy Grace is hosting a weekly topical true crime series for Investigation Discovery, and Bleecker Street acquires U.S. rights to the TIFF Buzz title One Life Tour de Force for Anthony Hopkins. The Spiderwick Chronicles TV series lands at Roku after a Disney Plus exit, and Juliana Margulies and Sarah Silverman board the Oscar-contending documentary Jack and Sam. What this film gives in 20 minutes is inspiring for a lifetime. Ebony Media Group is to launch Ebony TV by Lionsgate, targeting Black audiences on a FAST channel. Christopher Nolan is to be lauded and applauded by the Federation of American Scientists for his work on Oppenheimer. Merry Little Batman is streaming globally on Prime Video beginning in December, and Star Trek Prodigy finds a new home at Netflix after its Paramount Plus cancellation. Alicia Silverstone and Carl Glusman are to topline The Bird and the Bee, an erotic thriller from Yale Productions made under the SAG interim agreement. The Willie Nelson picture Willie and Me set to spring release with Quiver distribution. The road trip comedy marks the late Peter Bogdanovich's final screen appearance. Turner Classic Movies and classic film lovers from around the globe will be hitting its 15th anniversary celebration in Hollywood, April 18th through the 21st in 2020. Jeremy Fowler to topline a thriller from Hot Tub Time Machine's Steve Pink. Directed by Ryan and Tyson Horn, the first project from AGC Films examines the music genre's role and power in Atlanta, the cultural capital of the South. DGA touts extraordinary AMPTP contract, but not all members agree, calling it damage control. UTA undergoes a round of layoffs, and studios declare SAG-AFTRA talks are suspended and slams the guild for rejecting terms offered to the WGA and the DGA. SAG-AFTRA accuses studios of bully tactics and misrepresentation over revenue-sharing proposal cost as negotiations crater. SAG-AFTRA's president, Fran Drescher, is shocked by negotiation breakdown. It's so unfair and so disrespectful. Quote, end quote. Nicole Scherzinger signs with YMU. Leslie Jones and Sarah Silverman get another shot at guest hosting The Daily Show. That short list includes Chelsea Handler as well as Hassan Minhaj before that New Yorker article dropped. David Krumholtz, my old homie from Living Biblically, has a comedy called Lousy Carter acquired by Magnolia Pictures. Congratulations, Crummy. Focus Features dates Diablo Cody's written horror comedy Lisa Frankenstein for a February 9th opening. Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell's romantic comedy Anyone But You tweaks a pre-Christmas launch, and Ken Jeong's talk show is in the works with Debmar Mercury. Oscar-nominated actress Piper Laurie, known for Carrie and The Hustler and her Emmy-winning performances, died at the age of 91. Coming up on the new episode of The Curvy Critic with Carla Renata, we have a review of the Joan Baez documentary, I Am a Noise. We're also going to be talking about a hilarious film called The Persian Version, and we've got an amazing lineup, including Anatomy of a Fall, Boba Wine, The People's President, which is streaming on Nat Geo, Silver Dollar Road, which is streaming on Prime Video. Also on Prime Video is the Jamie Foxx, Tommy Lee Jones film, The Burial, Savior Complex on HBO Max. And last but not least, Swifties, hold on to your hats. I'm talking about that ERAStour coming up on The Curvy Critic right now. So clearly, that usually goes at the beginning of the show, but it took a little longer to download today because it was a little longer in length. So I hope you enjoyed that little trip around the curve. Again, let me just remind you of the films. Check out The Persian Version, Boba Wine, The People's President, which is streaming on Nat Geo, Anatomy of a Fall, The Mission, Savior Complex on HBO Max, Silver Dollar Road, which is streaming on Prime Video, The Burial, which is streaming on Prime Video, and Taylor Swift, The ERAStour, which is in theaters right now. Coming up in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be reviewing Priscilla. Yes, the other half of the Elvis Presley marriage. We never heard it from her point of view, and she's executive producer on this. The story of Elvis and Priscilla's love story from the beginning, told in cinematic form by Priscilla Presley's point of view based on her book Elvis and Me, and it is written, directed by Sofia Coppola. I'm also going to be talking about Killers of the Flower Moon. This is the new Martin Scorsese film. It is based on a true story. I can't wait to get into that. And it stars Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh my God, y'all. I can't wait to get into that one. And I have a couple of other films that I'm going to be into. We're going to be talking about Naiad, The Pigeon Tunnel, Beyond Utopia. All of that is in Pain Hustlers. All of that is happening next week. And in a couple of weeks, like I said, we'll be talking about Priscilla. There we go, Priscilla. So I'm going to come back on camera and check out these comments. Brandon's like, my birthday is not until the 29th. I said happy early birthday, Brandon. See, happy early birthday. I know it's not until October 30th. And he said he can't wait to be a 28 or 29-year-old beginner artist. I can't wait for that either. And he also told me that he wants to watch the Once Upon a Studio short. I can't wait to see that one too. So having said all of that, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I was talking a lot. There were no interviews to distract or entertain you today, but hopefully we'll have some of those soon. I have some that are coming up that probably won't be happening until November sometime. And as we get into the holiday season, I'll probably be taking more weeks off and replace that content with some other things. I'll get into a little bit more Halloween stuff next week too, because I haven't really addressed any kind of spooky, scary stuff. But y'all know the Halloween is not my season, honey. But Thanksgiving and Christmas is, and so is New Year. So we'll be getting all into that in a minute. But thank you so much for joining me. If you're watching this in real time, thank you so much. If you're watching it after the fact, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody always supporting me. 12 million viewers in, baby. We got this. We're going to try to do some other things with it. Hopefully we can make all of that happen. But until the next time, stay safe, wash your hands, be vigilant, and, holla at your girl. Let me know what you want to see, because I ain't got no problem, doing the same old thing all the time. I can do what y'all want me to do too. It's all good. Just let me know what you want to see, and I'll try to make that happen. Or let me know what guests you might want to see me talk to, because I'm going to try to bring some people over here, and we're going to do some reviews together, because I just have fun talking to my friends, because some of the stuff that they say when it comes to movies is hilarious. But having said that, I'll catch y'all on the flip side, and love, peace, and hair grease, and deuces until the next time. Bye, y'all. Mwah.